Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast, The Holistic Agent. I'm excited for this one, our first official episode. We shot a teaser a couple weeks ago, and I'm sure you saw, hopefully, and just really pumped this morning, bright and early. I think that maybe he maybe got me out here on purpose, 7 in the morning on a Monday, right? But want to introduce real quick here, Justin Baston, who is my therapist. So he's a licensed therapist here in the Kansas City area. And I've known Justin for how long?
It's been a long time. So 2012 or 2015?
Yeah, I was gonna say 8 years, something like that.
Yeah.
So we go back to KBC, and we worked together previously, and then just kept in touch throughout the years, and now he's my therapist. So talk a little bit about your credentials real quick. Just kind of share with the audience, who you are, what you do.
Absolutely. So I am licensed as a marriage and family therapist. I'm also licensed as an addictions counselor. And so when I've just kind of a little bit about my history, Brian and I, we worked together at a foster care agency, and Brian was doing all of kind of the background stuff, kicking butt, taking names, of course. I was doing some of the counseling just for the kiddos. Right now, I am counseling some of the employees through Children's Mercy, so the doctors, the nurses, helping them. And then I have my private practice in which I see people as well. And so I try to stay as busy as possible. And goodness, I'm excited to be able to be here. Thank you so much. This is awesome.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. We definitely, I was excited to have you on as my first official guest. Just because I know how much value you'll add to the show here, just with the topics that we'll be discussing today. So yeah, it'll be good. Pumped. Should we dive into it?
Yes, sir. Let's go.
Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about, and let me preface this real quick. We're going to talk a little bit about burnout within the real estate industry, what causes it, how to prevent it, coping mechanisms, things like that. And then we'll also talk a lot about self-care as well during this episode. So let's dive into burnout real quick, and signs of burnout within the industry. Why don't we touch on avoidance and exhaustion first?
Yeah, goodness gracious, like when I've worked with people who are in the real estate industry, this is number one. I mean, I think as you perfectly described it, it's kind of like a cutthroat type of industry.
No doubt.
Where especially when you're just starting off, it's really, really easy to be able to spend, 50, 60 hours. And I know when she's actually talked about this industry or an interest in this industry, like what we've discussed is that these are like family-friendly hours. So they're friendly to everyone else's family, except for your own family.
Right.
And so it's really, really hard just to be able to excel, to get yourself established, to be able to continue with this momentum, because I'm assuming, is momentum, is that very big in the real estate industry?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's feast or famine, and when the food's on the table, you got to eat. So yeah, I mean, it's honestly, it's easy to burn out just naturally within the industry. It's easy to struggle early on, obviously, and then you finally start to pick up a little bit of momentum, and you get super overwhelmed immediately because you pick up those clients. It's super streaky too. I mean, especially with the market that we're in right now, with just the amount of clients that we have reach out to us, and when they do, it just seems to be all at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's no spreading it out. So you're either busy or you're not. You're hungry.
Well, and with so many of my friends who've recently bought a house, I don't know what the average time on the market these houses are, but I think he offered within 9 hours, which I think that's a really, really common thing. So what's interesting, and I think what probably really excels or pushes the burnout, is that this is an industry of minutes. It feels like it's an industry of hours rather than afterwards, which is weeks or months or whatever it is to be able to close.
I used to, when I first got into the industry, basically my boundary for my clients was an hour. I would tell people that I'll get back to you within an hour. which is insanity. I mean, just to have that expectation of yourself even is crazy. So I dialed that back a little bit, and I'm learning that the hard way. But I think that a lot of agents haven't learned that, and that's something that we were potentially going to talk about. I don't think we'll get to boundaries today, but it'll be a topic that we'll talk about for sure, because it's extremely important.
Yeah. So, I kind of think that a lot of people, and I hate to say, like, us men, we have a very uncomfortable feeling with emotions, period.
For sure.
And I think that emotions, it's pretty much just information for us to be able to understand our experience and understand what in the world's going on with us. And I'd say if there's resentment that's starting to be able to brew just towards work, towards other commitments in life, that's a really, really good sign that burnout is starting to be able to take effect. I think that with people who are really like not only resentment, but not looking forward to work anymore, like the zest for being able to go out is really, really kind of gone. That's very easy, like a very easy sign to notice that you're starting to be able to burn out. What I've noticed, and I mean, obviously with yourself previously being in the mental health field, burnout is not only with real estate, it crosses the span. Why I love this topic for you guys is because, again, just the intensity of your work and it being, man, I would love to be able to see a room full of real estate agents who have kind of a similar policy to that hour policy that you have. Like, how much is that kind of the industry expectation?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it shouldn't be an hour, honestly. It's more like 2 hours now, truthfully. And really, you learn ways as you go through, and you research different groups and stuff, and you get different ideas on just how to have those healthy boundaries with your clients, essentially, because they have to know, that you're not always going to be available to them. So you have other clients that you need to tend to's needs, and you want to be able to go above and beyond with them. So I might be out on showings with another client, so I can't get back to you until I'm finished with them, So yeah, it's a constant game we play, and just a line we toe really with our clients.
What's so interesting, and what you kind of reminded me of is, man, I wonder if there's almost like this dehumanization that we have of real estate agents.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a thing, I think.
Where we no longer see you as a human, we no longer see you as a father, we no longer see you as like having really a family. We just see you as this thing.
And I think that's very true. But I think partly it's because of just the sheer importance of what you're purchasing. I mean, you're purchasing your life. Your home. That's your home. You're going to live there with your family and create hopefully these beautiful memories, right? Yeah. And so, yeah, you're totally right. I mean, I think it's easy for people to, and I see it with, I'll work with friends of mine that have been friends for years, and they just, it's, where are we at in our friendship, and where are we at in our, client realtor relationship too? That's something that we have to juggle as well constantly. With family as well, family, they always say, are the toughest to work with, and it's the truth, because family know no boundaries. They know no boundaries.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's definitely a real thing, I think, what you're talking about there.
God, that's so interesting. And with like this dehumanization, that's where it's interesting. Again, like, this is from my limited experience talking with friends, talking with even family, where if a deal falls through, where does the finger point?
Yep. Immediately to us.
Absolutely.
Yep.
My real estate agent, you are not doing your job. You're not trying hard enough. You don't care about it. You didn't advise us well. And I think especially in this market where, I think that it's, gosh, I was just talking to you about how aggressive you have to be in your bidding just to be able to actually get the house, and how easy, again, it is just to be able to point the finger at you in your profession and say, you're the reason why this place that I've envisioned, that I dreamed of, that I saw the kids running around in the backyard and looked at the schools and did all this research. You're the reason for my dreams falling through.
Yep. And that's a highly emotional event that you're describing. That's very real.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and it just goes to show, there's kind of a joke within the industry about how many hats we wear.
Yeah.
I mean, we wear the therapist hat in a way. We have to calm them down and, constantly remain positive within the deal and throughout your interaction with the client the whole way through, because it especially right now can be extremely discouraging when you're losing those multiple offers. And I've heard in our marketplace, I don't know if this is true, I bet 5 is definitely at least true, but I've heard that 7 on average, that there are 7 offers being placed on a home with one client before they actually win.
Goodness.
Can you imagining your home 7 times before one finally sticks?
Yeah.
I mean, it's an emotional roller coaster for them too, for our clients. And so that's something that we have to be constantly cognizant of throughout the process and guide them through.
What I'm kind of curious about, and again, like you could be able to teach me a little bit more about this. Therapists, we often talk about big T trauma and little T trauma. And so big T trauma is kind of what's like worldwide known and accepted as trauma. So being in a war, being sexually abused, any of those like big events, where little T traumas are, I like to describe if you lose your dog, like these tough events that you experience. Maybe it's like a breakup, maybe it's kind of a relationship where there's manipulation. What I'm listening to you talk, or at least what I'm thinking, I'm wondering with like this picturing these dreams and that continued just kick, just kick in the stomach that you get over and over again. I'm curious about like seeing your clients experience this disappointment, almost like this little small traumas every single time.
Mm-hmm.
And
so let's talk about that actually, because I think that would be a great tool, or just maybe a great discussion for us to have. Is I've never really thought about it that way, big T trauma, little T trauma, but more importantly, classifying that experience that these clients are having in these events as little T trauma. Mm-hmm. So how do we properly guide them through that? Mm-hmm. How do we properly comfort them through that while remaining professional, keeping that relationship boundary, making sure that we're providing a service still to them. However, we're here for them, and we understand, and we literally feel their pain.
Yeah. So you said something really, really important that I think is 90% of it, and I think that goes back to burnout. Is if you lose this empathy, if you lose this compassion, I think that's a great sign that you're starting to be able to burn out. You feel your heart starting to be able to harden up.
Right.
This is the market. Deal with it.
Yeah.
This is what it is.
It is what it is.
Toughen up.
Right.
Let's go look at others.
Power through it.
Yeah. And so like there's that professional side where you want to be able to give them that push, but it's kind of that side that you're talking about where seeing their disappointment and being like kind of putting on that therapist hat of, this is hard, this is disappointing, and this really sucks.
So validation, really, a lot of validation about kind of what they went through. Yeah.
I kind of the acronym that I use a lot with people that I work with is, if you see someone hurting, and by the way, I use this in couples counseling all the time. If you see someone hurting, I just want you to be able to love them. So to listen, understand, validate, empathize, and then repeat.
Okay.
And so if you
say that again, listen,
understand, validate, empathize, and then repeat.
Okay.
And 99% of the time, like if someone's hurting, if someone's struggling, that's all that they need.
Yeah.
And I think that's what actually really helps your clients or anybody to be able to persevere, to build that resilience, is just being validated and empathized with that this is hard and this sucks.
For sure.
Get it.
So, and then after that, I mean, because at some point you have to jump back on the saddle, right? Or in the saddle. I don't know what the expression is. So how do you make that transition to, okay, I feel like we've moved past that sort of, and you're ready for me to invite you back into this madness of real estate, of house searching again, how do I properly say that to them or bring that up,
Yeah. And I think, number one, just kind of being able to address it. Like, we need to be able to grieve this. We need to grieve like this loss. And let me know how I can be able to be helpful. Let me know when I can be able to send you other listings. Let me know when you're ready.
So more of an inviting approach, really. Yes. Inviting them to back into your services.
Yeah.
When you're ready.
Yep. And so this is kind of like your friend that, let's say a friend of yours got divorced. This would be, let me know when I can be able to send you dating profiles, rather than...
That's a fresh example for me.
Right. Well, and rather than if somebody just announced it, be like, well, check this person out, check this person out. So that's where it's like, way too soon. I need to be able to grieve. I need to be able to work through kind of this process.
No, that's a good example, actually. I've never thought about it that way either. Let's jump into loss of professionalism.
Yeah.
Because that's definitely a thing. And especially right now, I mean, the market's tense. Agents are tense because of what's going on right now. So
what does that look like? And forgive me for asking you a question.
No, you're good. So, I mean, I can hear it. I can feel it. And I mean, I try to open my conversations in a joking manner because of that. We talk about the market and like how crazy it is and how you're running around like crazy right now, or, you can barely keep your head above water right now, right? Like, yeah, me too. I hear it. I hear you. I feel you. But I mean, even like a fresh example is, I was talking to a lender a couple weeks ago, and not someone I've worked with before. So we didn't have that relationship established or any rapport or anything like that. This is my first correspondence with her. But she was super overwhelmed. I think she's really busy right now. And I was at the time too. And I don't want to say it got heated, but it got a little tense, and it didn't probably need to. I mean, had either her or I not been busy, I don't think that it would have gone down the road that it went down, which again, I mean, it didn't end unwell, but it definitely could have been a better conversation. And if we can be on the same page and learn to be on the same page with each other, I mean, it's just going to make the health of the deal be so much better. And I mean, honestly, our mental health and stability will be so much better off as well if we can all get on the same page here with what we're talking about.
Yeah, we're not enemies here, huh?
Right. Yeah, it's kind of the team mentality, really, when you go into a deal with a co-op agent. It's it's not me versus you. Some agents do think that, but I mean, we're trying to create a win-win here. How do we do that? Let's figure that out.
So you kind of talked about, like, with this loss of professionalism, how easy it is to be able to escalate, to have like these little situations just escalate quickly. That's definitely something that I could really see and really kind of envision. I think also with like a loss of professionalism, this is the very obvious where maybe I'm not as patient or as loving as I'd like to be in my responses. And I think even kind of another sign is not only in your professional world, but also in your personal world. Are you losing your patience? Are you losing your ability to show up in a loving, kind way because you are exhausted, you're taxed in this other area?
So like irritability, really?
Yeah.
As a kind of an indicator?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think that can really kind of spread around, where I know with a lot of people, they try to keep that good, happy face on in their professional world. It's where when they're home, they're like, let's burn this mother down.
Yeah.
I'm so tired.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's not a great sign. I think that's a very apparent sign of burnout, and something that's really saying, hey man, there's something that's going on. There's something that you need to be able to tend to, that you need to be a little bit more attentive of. And again, what's interesting is that you guys have such a boom, boom, boom type of industry, to where it's very, very easy to go on to the next shove down my personal needs,
Oh, yeah.
shove down what's going on with me so that I can be able to continue to tend to this, to my clients, to continue this momentum, because it's feast or famine. And right now there's bread on the table and we hungry.
Yep. Right. And we hungry and we don't want to deal with the crap that we just went through, and we don't want to process it. So we're just going to leave it back there and sweep it under the rug. You know, that's very common.
Yeah. Well, and also it's like really kind of challenging is that, at least in my observation, you're in the job of pretty much your reputation is everything.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure.
That's what puts, again, these clients showing up and reaching out to you with their houses or being able to look for a house is because of your, or whoever's listening to this, their reputation. And goodness gracious, is that a lot of pressure that every single moment you are one review away from the internet being written in ink, not in pencil.
Yeah.
To have that as a permanent scar.
Yeah. I don't know any examples personally, but I guarantee that people's careers have been ruined because of a slew of bad reviews or just something that happened within a deal. Maybe, I mean, obviously we're licensed professionals, so there's a lot of red tape, and there's things that you definitely can do and get in trouble and get your license taken away for, So I don't want to say that's something that's constantly hanging over us, but it gives you, I mean, especially when you're getting into the industry for the first time, that lack of confidence or ability to ask someone, or, I mean, if you don't have a great mentor, to reach out to someone later on at night when you need that question answered, because you're working at 7 p.m. because you're putting an offer in. You have to get it in that night too.
I feel like you're talking from experience.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a real thing, and I guarantee the agents that are listening to this can relate probably to what we're talking about. So, and we're going to touch on self-care hopefully within this episode, because I feel like that kind of falls in line with what we're talking about here in terms of what are some tools here for irritability. When we start to get irritable and we feel that coming, what can we do?
Yeah, I'm sure that hopefully whoever's listening to this are like, preach, this is it, this is me, this is my life. And I think what really drives a lot of, because I mean, it's again so much of kind of our mental game and these expectations that real estate agents, that you guys put on yourself, right? And if I can be able to go down to, I think even with like the doctors and nurses that I work with, even therapists, we strive for this feeling of enoughness, and with the reputation being everything, knowing that you are one person short of having like a bad reputation or the next person from that being spread. By the way, my real life example would be, I saw somebody on Facebook ask for, do you know a good realtor? This is in my hometown. I would have referred to you.
Sure.
And the person, somebody wrote on there, do not go to this person. Do not go to this realtor. They are awful. They don't care about you.
Yeah.
So that's been shown now to the thousands of friends.
Damning.
That they've seen. One comment, one person, just now being shown over and over and over again. By the way, I know that realtor, and she's like a sweetheart.
I was going to say, honestly, I don't obviously know who you're even talking about, and I can almost guarantee that it was something that happened that, honestly, that realtor probably had zero control over, but they wore it. They had to. The blame was, like you said earlier, the blame was placed on them because they're providing a service to the client, and the client's expectations are here. I mean,
I'm kind of curious, how much, or I guess how easy is that to be able to internalize when you have like the finger pointing at you and saying you did this? What is that?
Sucks. Like? It's not fun. I mean, it's something that we do on a daily basis. I mean, I made a post here not too long ago about trying to compare our daily, our ins and outs of our day. And the best I can think of is, and actually this is a fresh example, about say you leave a really controversial post on Facebook or comment that a lot of people are seeing, and it's caused you to defend your honor, and your phone's getting blown up because all these people are attacking you, right? I mean, that's the best example I can provide, really, because something goes south or somebody drops the ball somewhere, and we have to explain to the client what happened, why it happened, and honestly hope that they're forward thinking enough with you and invite them to move past it with you, because it's already in the past. It is what it is. So let's think of solutions, and be solution based and solution focused.
Yes. I mean, so you're kind of talking about like that, gosh, and we're developing that thicker skin where it's easy, at least what I would assume, to buy into like this scapegoat mentality. You're the a-hole, you're the reason why. And I think if you're told that enough, there's maybe part of your heart that starts to believe it. Maybe you're not good enough. Maybe you did blow it. Maybe you are in the wrong industry.
Yep.
Maybe you are failing and you cost somebody their dreams. Whoa.
Yeah, and for those of you agents that are listening that are just getting into it or considering it, maybe, I mean,
I feel like we're scared of us.
Well, no, this is good. They need it. This is what they need to hear, honestly. I mean, because I feel like a lot of people step into real estate with unrealistic expectations.
Yeah.
They don't understand what they're getting into. They see the fluff. They see the BMWs and the Mercedes Benzes and the nice houses, and that's a stigma and a problem within the industry that we'll address in another episode. But
never thought of that.
But yeah, I mean, it's you've got to know going in that mental toughness is a necessity.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah.
You have to have it, and if you don't, it can be learned. We'll talk a little bit about that too, but it's something that you have to be actively working on a daily basis.
Yeah. Well, and gosh, how because I'm talking about kind of like the mentality. What I was also hearing you say with like the BMWs or the crisp suits. Gosh, I see that huge what we want to present to this world, but also then like what is really underneath and what this person's really struggling. How much effort must really kind of go into just that idea of being professional? How much effort really kind of goes into being seen as, having your reputation as someone who's successful, someone who is has their stuff together. Because I think when we see that car, when we see that suit, that equates to they know what they're doing, they're successful, they can be able to get it done.
Exactly.
And man,
perception is reality.
Yes, sir.
And it's honestly, so when I go on a listing appointment where I've never met the person before, that initial introduction, for the first 10, 15 minutes probably, I'm doing as much to learn about you, your family, who you are, so that I can tailor this toward you. And that's definitely something that we have to do, but it sets up the dialogue for it to be all about you and nothing about me at all. So that can be something that can be an issue within your interactions with the clients. Is it is all about you, and I want to make sure it's all about you. We got a minute. It is all about you, and I want to make sure that it's all about you. But here's what I do.
Yeah.
Here's who I am.
Yeah.
Here's my boundaries. More importantly, is this still a good fit?
Yeah.
So yeah.
And that's just fascinating. Well, and I don't know, there's just so much that really kind of goes into what is on your shoulders, what real estate agents are really carrying. And hopefully, this kind of makes sense what burnout looks like and how to tell in your body when you are struggling or when they're starting to really kind of be cracks that are beginning to develop.
Definitely. Yeah, I think we touched on some pretty good topics there, and content that hopefully is helpful for really being able to be mindful of burnout and what it's doing to your body and how it's affecting your body and your daily activities, and more importantly, to what we're speaking to, your interactions with your clients. We're going to discuss a book that you'd mentioned by the author Emily Nagoski. Is that how you?
Yeah, you actually pronounced it well. Her book is Burnout. And so she came onto the scene with a book called Come As You Are. It is relatively her book is about sexuality, and I guess in her book that I read, Come As You Are, there's one chapter that's about burnout. And I guess with all of the women that really kind of approached her around this book, Come As You Are, they didn't really kind of point out or discuss any of the women's sexuality stuff, but they were like, that chapter on burnout, that was amazing. That was incredible. And so she was like, man, I guess there's kind of a calling for me to be able to write more. And so she actually co-authored the book with her sister, who is a composer, where, just with music, or I think it's for an orchestra or something like that. And she talks about, and again, this book is called Burnout by Emily Nagoski. It's a really fantastic read, actually a pretty quick read as well. And she talks about...
Just my kind right there.
Right, exactly. She talks about the stress cycle, and how I've really kind of envisioned it is that if you look at how humans were made, we were exposed to a stressor, we then escaped that stressor, and then we were able to complete this stress cycle, right? And so we are in the jungle, there is a rhino that chases us, and then we escape the rhino, or I guess we die, but there's completion.
That makes me think of, and I'm going to butcher this, I wish I knew what the name of it was, because you probably would know, and you might recall here. There's and I don't know if this is a theory or if this is something that actually happened, an event that actually happened.
Yeah.
I think that it's actually an event that happened, truthfully. It was in one of the island nations, say like Indonesia or the Philippines or something. You know where I'm going with this?
I think so.
What's it?
Keep going.
Okay, so something happened where basically the whole, the inland was basically scorched earth, right? Like there was a massive fire that basically wiped out all of their crops. So all of the farmers that were in the mainland, they had to move to the coast to survive. And basically what ended up naturally happening is those that were fittest and the smartest and already knew how to fish, they survived. And so, but what came of it was this like super race, really, or this super population of people who went through this massive struggle. They came out on top, and then they multiplied.
Is this the birthplace of the realtor?
No. Yeah, right.
The super race.
Yeah, seriously. You're right. How about that? Yeah, right. No, so that's what it makes me think of, though. And I can't think of the name of the theory or what it is.
Well, and like how with Emily Nagoski, what she's kind of talked about is that in today's society, we are not running for our life, but we do have the stressor, and we still have like this physiological response to it. And so cortisol is that stress hormone that pumps through our body. And what's tough is when I've heard you discuss real estate, I hear a big ball of stress. That's my own personal observation and assumption that's going on. And it's really, really difficult to be able to experience completion in regards to the stress cycle. And so she's talked about, how do we complete this cycle? How do we tell our body that it's safe and that you can be able to breathe and relax, right? And by the way, some of the noticeable things with your stress cycle is if you go a day without having to be able to use the restroom. Usually, if you are stressed, your bowels and your stomach, they stop digesting stuff because you're running for your life. And so if you're running for your life, you don't need to be able to digest your breakfast. And so there's, I think that that's a really, really kind of important thing. My wife, she's also kind of talked about there's been days where she's noticed that she didn't eat, that it's like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. And she's like, oh, yeah, I didn't have lunch. You're nodding your head. Sounds like you've been there.
Yeah, and I'm not the only one. I mean, you're talking about something that I think a lot of Asians experience, because we get in our cars, we're driving all around the city, we're doing this and that and everything that we possibly can to go above and beyond for our clients. And yeah, you look down at your clock and it's 5 o'clock and you're like, holy smokes, I had a protein shake this morning. That's it.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
Well, and so Emily Nagoski, she also coined a term which I really liked, called the human giver syndrome.
Yeah.
So the human giver syndrome, how she defined it is that it's a contagious belief that you have a moral obligation to give every drop of your humanity to support of others, no matter the cost to you.
Does that sound familiar, guys? Yeah, if you don't have that as an agent going in, you're not going to be successful, truthfully. I mean, that's almost like a given.
Crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
Man. Well,
and I'm glad that we're talking about that specifically, because, that's something that I want to buck too, and a stigma that I want to buck a little bit, because people have to understand, that we, like we were talking earlier, we are humans, we do have lives outside of real estate, and outside of my interaction with you, how brief over text that be, or in person longer that be, but that constant need to fulfill all of their desires always, it's a major problem.
Yeah. Well, and again, I love the way that she said it, is that you have to give every drop of your humanity in the support of others. Goodness gracious. And I think that human giver syndrome that is one of the major facets of this burnout, and one thing that you really have to, kind of this real estate message, or this mindset that you have to be really conscientious of, because this will eat you up and spit you out. And not only will this affect your career, but what do you value more than that? You value your family. And this will absolutely cost you those who love you and those who you're closest with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And now that I think about it, I've always had that issue, this human giver syndrome. I think you know that.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that I had it until I got into real estate. I was in the nonprofit world and I was fulfilling that need, and I got into real estate, and it's in a different way that I'm fulfilling it, but that's really what brought it to light, that I have it, that I have this constant need for you to be better off than I am. I want you to be good. I want you to have a great week. I can handle not having a good week. Okay. I want you to have a great week. And that's an issue. Because we have to be inwardly focused, and, we have to have that mindset of, if I'm not good, you're not good.
Yeah.
If I'm not doing the stuff that I need to be doing mentally, or physically, that, this interaction with you throughout this deal isn't going to be as good as it could be. So I need to focus inwardly on myself.
I know this sounds so funny, but it almost kind of reminds me of you're kind of pitching a Jerry Maguire-esque type of real estate agent, where instead of having this vast, huge amount of people where they're just a number, this is again that humanization of, I actually care about you, deeply, genuinely, not this fake facade stuff. I will hurt with you. I will cry with you. I will absolutely celebrate with you.
Oh, for sure.
And so I hear you kind of talking. That was what I was connecting when you were discussing it.
Yeah, definitely. That's, like I said, it's definitely an issue within the industry, and something that, because if you think about it this way, say, and I think the best example, you could go either way with it really, but the buy side, say on the buy side, if I'm a buyer's agent for a client, or maybe it's a referral from a friend and it's a family member of theirs, but that person or that client also has a friend that's a realtor, but they want to talk to you too because you were highly referred, so you're in competition with that other agent, right?
Yeah.
So you got to do whatever it takes.
Oh gosh.
No, you don't have to do whatever it takes. Just be you. I've learned that more and more throughout this industry, and it sets you up for more success, truthfully, than to be a chameleon and to be who you think they want to see. How do I know?
And I think like what I would want to add on to that is being you are enough.
Yeah.
You are enough. And I think that's huge to, like, we get it mentally, but do we get it in our heart?
Mm-hmm.
Do we actually get it here that we are enough as an agent?
Right.
I was talking outside of this where it's very easy to compare us with somebody who's been in the industry for 15, 20 years and is closing 100 deals a year. I look at myself and I see that I'm closing 1 to 3 every 6 months, maybe. What does that mean about my worth? What does that mean about my enoughness?
Mm-hmm.
If I can be able to take a step back, what I was also thinking, or when you were talking, is I think, and I don't know if this is a US thing, but it feels like being busy is almost kind of a status.
Yeah.
That I know that I'm worthy, I know that I'm enough because I'm incredibly busy.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was talking to my sister about this, even like as a parent, where she stated, you know, this pandemic has been kind of a blessing in a crazy way where this weekend the kids went out and they played with sidewalk chalk. That was enough. That was enough for me as a parent. That I didn't have to take them to the zoo. I didn't have to take them to 27 practices. I didn't have to entertain them and have them engage with these friends and these friends and these friends. And I think that that could be the exact same thing as a realtor, is that you don't have to have a completely like full schedule to be enough. And that is not your status symbol. That is not your worth as a real estate agent.
Definitely. I mean, I think that realistically, a lot of agents have to be real with themselves and think, I mean, first of all, how much do you want to make, right? I mean, that's the $1 million question.
Yeah.
But more importantly, how do you get there? And more importantly, is it feasible? I mean, can you truthfully get there? If you really want to make $500,000 in 5 years, do you know what it takes to do that? I mean, do you really know what it takes? And then if you know what it takes, do you have what it takes?
Yeah.
But be real with yourself. Do you really have what it takes? Because not many people do.
Well, and I think that it's like, are you willing to sacrifice, like, look at these costs? Because again, you can easily see like these lavish things, but what's behind the scenes? What is it really kind of costing them?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's so much like if you have like what it takes, because I think emotionally there's so many resilient people out there, but I think that it's more of like so if you want to be able to see what a person values in life, if you really want to understand their values, you look at where they spend their time and where they spend their money.
Mm-hmm.
And that will tell you everything about this person.
Dang, that probably hits home for a lot of people right there. I mean, if you just look at it that way, how are you spending your time? Where are your priorities?
Yes.
And where's your money going?
Yes.
And that's you.
Yes.
That's who you are, pretty
Yes.
much.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think with like a lot of people, they can value leisure. And so there's no judgment that really kind of goes along with it. If they want to be able to spend their money that way, absolutely. Or maybe and leisure going in, or luxury is something that's really important to them. And that's what makes them feel comfortable. And that's where, I don't know, it provides, and it's really, really helpful. I don't think that there's any judgment or anything gross about it. It's just different, you know?
Yeah.
If you look at, I bought a fixer-upper of a house, you can be able to see that's, I guess, that's where I spend a lot of my time and a lot of my money, is just being able to invest and really kind of develop it.
For sure.
For us to be able to have our family there for a lifetime.
Yeah, and that actually made me think of earlier what I was talking about with Gary Vee. I'm pretty sure it was Gary Vee. He was talking about how he's like, you think your problems are problems and you think you want that life. He said, you don't know how many dudes and chicks and whomever else are driving around in Lambos right now who are pulling over and crying in their Lambo because they're not enough, or because they feel empty. They've accumulated all of this wealth and all of these beautiful, nice things. And we see their Facebook posts and we see, their life, this beautiful, lavish life, and we think that they're doing it, they're doing the thing, and they've got it made. It's perfect, They're going to die a happy person, but you don't see on the inside how much they're struggling internally because, maybe their priority was work 100% of the time, and their head was down, and maybe they built up that resentment or some regrets about their family and time spent with their family, and self-care and doing the other things that they should be doing throughout that whole journey of life or of success.
So my daddy turned 70 last year, and we went to I interviewed him just because I wanted to be able to like capture all of his stories, just so I can be able to have it for the next generation and the generation after that. And one of the questions was, what's your biggest regrets? What is your biggest regret? And he's like, I wish that I had spent more time with you growing up. I wish that I was able to be there more rather than taking care of, he has rentals, he's a teacher, and he has a farm. And he's like, I just wish that I was more present. I think that was really powerful for me to be able to internalize, because I think everyone struggles with like, when is enough? Like what is really kind of your values? And I think that that's really huge to be able to look at, because, and by the way, when you were speaking, I was also thinking of who has the highest rates of suicide? It is middle-class white men.
Yeah.
They have the highest rates of suicide out of any other group.
I believe it.
Fascinating. I'm going to jump a little bit to self-care because I keep leading you astray.
Yeah, no, you're fine. Let's jump into self-care. You got some good. We're going to talk about physical, emotional, spiritual, and intellectual. So 4. Let's dive into some self-care.
So whenever I really kind of work with people, these 4, I kind of see them as the pillars. Of what to be able to assess, where am I doing well, where do I want to be a little bit more intentional with being able to try to kind of build myself up. And self-care, kind of the cliches that we have is you have to be able to put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you help out anyone else. So when you actually partake in self-care, you are a better real estate agent. More importantly, you're a better mother, you're a better father, you're a better family member, you're a better lover, like everything all across the board. You are the better version of yourself if you engage in self-care. And being able to, I think a lot of people, we internalize that like, I'm being selfish. I'm selfish with being able to go have coffee with a friend, or to be able to stow away and be able to kind of read a book for a little bit. I think that that really robs us of this self-care that we're really trying to be able to engage in. So I think the first part is get rid of this guilt and be very mindful of it. Don't really feed into it, and acknowledge and know that you are making yourself better for everyone around you. If you don't give a damn about yourself, you need to care about everyone else and how the hell you show up for them.
Yeah.
And so the first one is physical self-care, right? And this is the one that we usually kind of think of. So this is, how are you doing with exercise? When you were talking about people who were kind of in the burned out force, I thought you were talking about something completely different. So they studied a culture in Papua New Guinea, and in the US, we have depression rates of about like 1 in 10. Where in Papua New Guinea, this culture with no technology, high rates of childhood death, violent death, just like a really rough lifestyle. So we experience depression 1 in 10. They're about 1 in 2,000.
Okay.
And what that's stating is that how we are living, you and I, our bodies are not built this way. We're not built to be underneath like these fluorescent lights.
Sure.
We're not built to be sedentary.
Right.
We're built to really be active. And that's why, at least I believe that's why our bodies are revolting with depression, with anxiety, is because we're getting so far away with how we've really kind of been programmed. And that's where I see like this self-care is that we need just natural vitamin D. We need to be out in the sun. we need to be able to be exercising, where if you exercise for 3 times a week for 30 minutes, they say that that has the same effect, if not a better effect, than taking Zoloft.
Yeah, I believe that.
So 30 minutes, 3 times a week, an hour and a half commitment just with getting your heart rate up to about 120 beats a minute.
But that's hard, though. I mean, it's so much easier to pop a pill.
Yeah, right.
I mean, right? That's our society, though. I mean, that's
very true.
What's easiest?
Yeah. I mean,
how quickly can I get from point A to point B, or how quickly can I achieve that mental state that I'm after?
So So you're bringing up a good question. How do we make exercise more realistic, right? I'd say make it social. So that's why I think being able to have Orange Theory or being able
Going
to
my first class Friday.
Are you?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Or being able to kind of meet up with your friends to be able to, and 120 beats a minute, that's like a speed walk. Being able to do that has to be social, because when I know that I'm held accountable with one of my friends, it's a lot more likely to be able to show up, right? Being able to make it pretty natural as well. And so maybe this is you playing with your kiddos for 30 minutes, where you were running around, you were chasing. That is physical activity. That is exercise.
Yeah.
You know? So
getting creative with your time spent and the amount of time you spent doing it, and allowing yourself to, if you miss your 30 minutes, if you're getting strict and rigorous with it and you miss your 30 minutes that day or something, that you replace it with going outside and playing a little basketball with your kids, or asking the neighbor if they want to go for a walk or something like that.
Yeah. And, I haven't done this, but if you look on YouTube, I'm sure that there's exercise with kids. I'm sure that there's thousands of videos. And so what, are you picking up your kid and then doing squats? Is that something that you want to be able to do? Or if your kid's adolescent, then you have even more options of what to be able to do and to be able to exercise.
Definitely.
These are all different ways that you can integrate connection with your own physical well-being. The one that I think is the most important is sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing affects me as quickly and as dramatically as to when I don't get enough sleep. You actually can die from lack of sleep a lot faster than dying from, is it a lack of water?
Wow.
So sleep is one of the most essential things in our life, just to be able to rejuvenate and to be able to just live.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know, I think sleep is something that I try to really kind of punctuate. And I think that it's really easy in this business to set that aside and really not make that very important.
It is when you get busy, for sure. And I mean, it's easy to have that hamster wheel running constantly when you hit the pillow at night, that you just can't shut it off.
Yes. So I guess, kind of with that, what I would encourage with being able to help you fall asleep, mindfulness is really helpful. Some of the things that I encourage, I'm balling on a budget, so all of these are free resources, podcasts. And so one that's called mindful.org.
Okay.
You can be able to practice mindfulness there. Mindful in Minutes is another really great podcast that it has just these mindfulness activities in each of those. Also, I've heard of some of my clients using a podcast called Sleep With Me. I know that it sounds very adult, but it is one where a person just reads a really boring story to you. So you're able to kind of take your mind off of your really long list.
Yeah. Is it like Morgan Freeman?
Right.
He walked down the dirt road.
Right. And the penguins. No, right?
I fall right asleep.
So physical self-care, incredibly important. The next one is emotional self-care. So with emotional self-care, how do you emotionally fill yourself up? Is this, do you roll down a hill? Is this playing with your kids? Are these passion projects? Or which ways can you really love yourself?
Sure.
That you feel loved? Yeah. And I think that each person is a little bit different. I think being silly is also really big.
Yeah.
As emotional self-care.
Definitely.
I love being able to dance and be silly. It's easy to be able to do with kiddos, and it's easy to be able to do with your spouse, listening to music and singing.
Music's huge for me now.
Yes. Yeah. So emotional self-care is finding what is kind of that little piece and making time for it. Maybe it's like having coffee with friends.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's your time of being silly and being able to connect.
Right.
Spiritual self-care. So a lot of people go to kind of organized religion, but it doesn't have to be that.
Right.
I see this as, what is it that fills up your soul or your spirit, if that's something that you believe in? Or what I often talk about is, what is it that fulfills your purpose?
Mm-hmm. Like your cup.
Exactly. Why am I here?
Mm-hmm.
What is kind of this impact? Is it through fostering animals? Is it through volunteering? Or maybe it's something as simplistic as doing small acts, or being able to really capture and savor. What I'm guessing is like that moment when your client is filled with joy and gratitude when they sign that piece of paper,
Mm-hmm.
when they've gotten their dream home and you've worked your ass off to be able to make sure that that's reality. I really want people to be able to sit there and to just savor it.
Yeah.
Not to go to the next client, not to do anything else, but go, this is good.
Yeah.
This is cool. I think that's spiritual self-care.
For sure.
Yoga, meditation, I think those are all things that, if you can see, they can really kind of bleed over into one another. So, I mean, with yoga or meditation, yoga could be the physical self-care as well,
Right.
or meditation could be the emotional self-care.
Right.
And so they're not small into each box. And by the way, what I want people to be able to do listening to this is kind of rank yourself 0 to 10. How are you doing with physical self-care? 0 to 10, how are you doing with emotional self-care, with spiritual self-care? And then this next one is intellectual self-care. So intellectually challenging yourself. Am I getting this through reading a book? Am I getting this through some people through news and even kind of challenging themselves with different points of view? Now, a lot of people find that as something that really kind of takes away from them and doesn't really emotionally invigorate them. So
Yeah.
I want you to be mindful of that. But
Exactly.
for me, with intellectual self-care, I don't really know too much about construction and working on my house. I have to really learn quite a bit about just these different aspects, what is structurally sound so that the roof doesn't collapse on us. I'm not doing roof work,
Right.
but
Or electrical, hopefully.
Exactly, yes. But I think being able to read and kind of challenge and learn, I don't know, that's where with so many retired folk, they have a huge regression and like they have a huge struggle when they retire because they're no longer intellectually challenged.
Yeah.
Or if they're retired, they lose so much of kind of like these opportunities. It's probably like their worth.
Yeah.
Is really takes a hit and struggle with identity of like, who am I?
Mm-hmm.
But I want people to, maybe it's also through puzzles. I went through like a big Sudoku phase a couple months ago.
Yuck.
I know. I got okay. But being able to challenge yourself in those ways, I think that that's huge.
So to kind of wrap it up and bring it all home a little bit here, you mentioned kind of ranking 1 to 10. So where should I fall roughly within these 4 categories? If I'm noticing that maybe I'm sliding myself in one of them, where's that at? Is that like at a 5 and below?
Yeah, I think like the 0 to 10, it's mostly all about kind of giving you a sign of where do I need to focus next. And so I want you to perpetually be thinking of self-care and always growth and always being able to kind of nurture that. And so there's not a specific number where you're not like enough.
Just trying to improve on the number.
Yes.
Basically, and know where it is and know where it lies and be mindful of where it is.
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. So kind of just to bring it all back in, I know I got a lot of good information from you, Justin. I always do. That's why you're my therapist, obviously. Hopefully you guys did too. Hopefully you saw this as useful and you're taking some stuff away. I know we talked a lot about some podcasts. We threw some books in there, it sounds like. And then just some self-care stuff, some things that, maybe some mindfulness exercises, meditation and stuff like that. All great content. Definitely, I think will be helpful for a lot of agents out there in the world that are battling these stressors on a, like you said, minute by minute basis sometimes, because that's what we do. So I just want to thank you for coming on. Really, definitely enjoyed the content, and we'll have to probably have you on again sometime, maybe.
I dig it, Brian. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Justin.
If you're struggling with mental health, or you're an agent out there who maybe struggles daily with something within, internally within your mind, this podcast is for you. And honestly, it's for all of you, truthfully. The things that we'll be talking about and addressing within it are going to help you more than you truly know. So I really hope that you join us on this journey, because it will be one with a lot of fun people, and we've got a lot of great content teed up for you guys that I'm really excited about. So please tune in, and please reach out also if you have any questions, or if you need anything, just reach out to myself or Nathan. All right, thanks guys.